Hello friends, it's Kayla. Today, the focus of the vlog is accomplishing my 2024 reading goals. So at the beginning of the year, I put out this video where I listed all the things that I wanted to read, I wanted to accomplish, I wanted to do, and then I did a follow-up a couple months ago where I spent a week doing those things, reading the anthologies, reading the weird fiction, reading something from my TBR jar. Today, we're gonna do it again, and then we're gonna do it again in the fall. I obviously love a themed vlog, and those often do lead to like a wide variety of genres, but I like these goal check-ins because there's just so much going on all at once. One thing that I'm gonna start with is I didn't realize how short this book was, and it was for the goal, this is for the goal of reading something from my members TBR jar. So back there, I have a TBR jar. If you're a channel member of mine, I'll put the link down below as I always do. You have the opportunity, or I have the opportunity to read something that you have recommended to me. It can be something that you want me to read because you loved it, or you want me to read because you hated it, or you want me to read because you want to read it and you need to know my thoughts first. And one of the recent picks is A Sentimental Education by Hannah McGregor. And this is memoir meets analysis of genres, aesthetics, feminist meaning making. We're going to talk about it as I discover what it's actually about. I'd never heard of it before, but it sounds like something that'd be right up my alley. Actually, let me check the release date of this. Okay, it's 2022. So I was just checking to see if it was 2024 because one of my goals is to read more 2020. Of course it wouldn't be 2024. It was just recommended to me. I mean, that'd be a quick turnaround time, but one of my goals is to be more up to date with nonfiction releases because I read a lot of good ones, but I'm often hearing about them months, years, decades after they've come out and everybody already loves them. And I think that's a good way to figure out what books you want to read, but I also want to be like, I want to have my finger on the pulse of nonfiction because I have it on like every other genre that I typically read. So this is one that I not discovered, but like found out about on my own. Nobody recommended it to me. Nobody mentioned it to me. I just saw it somewhere out in the wild and I added it to my TBR and now it has come out and I think the cover is so beautiful. This is Magical Realism, Essays on Music, Memory, Fantasy, and Borders by Vanessa. Hold on. I'm gonna let her introduce herself to you.
This is the author, Vanessa Angélica Villarreal.
Vanessa Angélica Villarreal. I already got a little bit into this morning because I was getting ready and I listened to the audiobook because another one of my goals is to make sure that I use my minutes on Spotify that are included in your premium because there are audiobooks on there and you get a certain amount every month. So I started listening to it and I quite like it. Another one of my goals is to read short story collections. Now, in my 2024, I amazingly have somehow accomplished like most of them already. There's only 5 remaining. There are 4 short story collections and 1 novella. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have so much time to get to those. So I'm not gonna choose a short story collection for this video that is from that list. I'm gonna choose this one because I didn't finish it. This is Zombie Sharks with Metal Teeth by Stephen Graham Jones. And I read one of the stories because it had to do supposedly with sharks, but it didn't really. In my shark vlog recently, and now I need to finish the rest of them because it didn't feel relevant to the video, but I don't want to go the rest of the month without reading it, but I also want to vlog it. So I'm just gonna finish out this and tell you my thoughts on all of the stories here. And now I'm thinking like, should I pick something from the 24 and 24? And there is one thing left and it checks off 2 different goals. I wasn't planning on it, but maybe I'll try to read the Iliac Crest in this video. It's 130 pages. I should be able to get through it. I just wanted this to be a kind of low amount reading vlog because I'm working on a really ambitious one next, but I should definitely check this off. So this is Cristina Rivera Garza, and it's like the one that's like there's a I read the first chapter. A stranger comes into the house and it's terrifying or something. An unnamed narrator is visited by 2 women, one a former lover and the other a stranger, and they harass him. And then lastly, this is the most ambitious of the video, but I kind of committed to it a couple months ago before really thinking it through. I'm not regretting it because I really do want to rewatch Dune, and I promised myself I wouldn't rewatch it without rereading these. So one of my goals of the year is just to do more rereads for fun, just for me. And this was in my top 10 of the year in, I think, 2022. So it seems really recent, and maybe this isn't like the best content-wise decision for a reread, but I really do want to read. I put Dune and Dune Messiah because this like should be one book. In my mind, it does complete like the full story here that is introduced in the first book. Obviously there's more to come after it that I haven't continued, so I should probably prioritize those, but instead I'm gonna read these this week. So this checks off a lot of things for me. New releases, anthology, weird books, 24 and 24, and then also the 12 books recommended by channel members, and then rereads. I actually think this stack is really pretty together. So like I said, I've already gotten started on this, so let's throw in a title screen and start talking about it. Even though I'm only 50 pages in, this one took me a minute to get into. I feel like you're dropped into, like, I don't know, I can't now remember like how memoirs are typically written if we start at the beginning of someone's life, and obviously they're all different. This one I just felt was jarring, the way that we started out with her exploring like her current life as an adult, going through a divorce and having a young child and returning to Mexico when I didn't know like how we got there. I guess I was also expecting this to open up with an explanation of the term magical realism, because it's something that is so misused within the reader community, and I wanted to be able to recommend this to so many people to understand what the term means beyond just like sending them like an Instagram infographic. Like I wanted something specific that could explain it to me more thoroughly and to everybody else. And I didn't get that. And so I was like, okay, I was switching my expectations of what this was going to be. But then at 40 pages in, we got exactly what I was looking for. And I'm really glad that she took the time to explain this, the explanation of surrealism, fabulism, fantasy, her idea of magical realism, where the term came from, what it means to the Latin community, but also how it can be reductive to automatically put all Latin American writers in this category. Magical realism is not a neutral literary genre, but a marginal one. It is racialized, connected to colonial ideas of primitive mysticism and magical people of color with an indigenous connection to the supernatural. Magical realism and the Latin boom were articulations of the post-colonial consciousness in the 20th century, not a production of the real, but a production of truth. Then there's a lot more in between, but like resources and explaining like power dynamics and just so much good explanation in here. So this is what I talk about when I talk about my favorite type of nonfiction, ones that mix personal stories and anecdotes with education and thoughtful dialogue on just a lot of like interesting topics. And then right after that, we did get into the author's background, and we got a story from the past as opposed to the present. And getting to better understand her and her journey and her family is, I think, going to be really valuable. I'm excited to continue on now. I'm gonna do lunch. I have to go pick up Liam from his hockey camp. I'm trying to figure out if I have any like personal goals that I should accomplish outside of reading stuff in this vlog. But right now it's summertime and I'm just trying to like keep things chill and easy. On the drive, maybe I'll continue with the audiobook, but I also do enjoy reading it physically because I didn't show you at the beginning, there's like fun stuff to look at. Maybe not fun, interesting. So I'll probably end up doing a blend of both, and I'll let you know how it's going in a bit. Turns out, I think this book is actually perfectly written as far as organization and when she's telling us information. Side note, if you're concerned about me wearing contacts as late at night, I'm not. I just have misplaced my glasses, and so I can't actually see anything. And I'm trying to stick to taking out my contacts in the evenings. Sometimes I do forget. But I've also started going an entire day a week without wearing my contacts. You probably don't really see me those days. I've been trying to take one day off a week from like filming, putting on makeup, putting in contacts, and presenting myself to the world. Anyway, I've been using a bunch of different colored tabs. I don't know how much you can really see because I can't see. And I don't know that it's intentional that she didn't start out in a linear fashion. She ends up telling us a lot about her adolescence and the terrible things that have happened to her. She has PTSD and she explores that and explains what that means. And I think there was a quote about that, I don't know which one it is, that was really poignant. It talks about why she doesn't have certain memories or why it's hard for her to access certain memories, why she might not want to relive things. And I don't know that it's intentional, that it took her a while to go back to certain parts of her life. But the journey of reading this has me making sense of why she's sharing things when she is. There's been a lot about her father growing up, the daughter of a musician, how he looks at the world, how she rebelled in a lot of ways, and what culturally was expected of her. She quoted my favorite poem at one point, the different relationships she's been in, bad and good, and how media has changed her relationship with music has altered her life. She really respects fan fiction and video games and getting lost in a fantasy world and the necessity for that to heal from trauma for so many people, or to feel seen, to feel like you belong. And I just love a lot of what she's saying in here. So I have 100 pages left and I'm gonna finish it up tomorrow. Hello and happy Saturday. I have decided I'm not doing anything today. Well, I am about to make frozen tacos. I found frozen tacos at the grocery store and it sounded a little horrifying, but they were so delicious that I'm gonna make them again for lunch. It's already 12 o'clock on a Saturday and I've done nothing, and I've decided I'm not gonna do anything today. Liam just finished like a 30-hour hockey camp for the week, and so he doesn't want to go anywhere today. Rob, where's my book? Rob is on call, so he could be called away to any job. He already has been today. And then he has a poker night with some friends this evening. So I don't want to do anything during the day. Nobody else wants to do anything during the day. So we're just gonna sit in the house and I'm gonna read all of my books except for Dune. That's my only plan for the day. I'm gonna finish Magical Realism, which I will be honest, is getting a little tedious. There was one essay that I read that was so incredibly long and I feel like started to get a little bit repetitive, but I'm almost done it. And then I'm gonna read all the short stories in here, this, and the color scheme is just incredibly boring. I'm trying to think, how am I gonna make this thumbnail interesting? Oh my God, I forgot the reason I'm sitting here is because I was gonna put on mascara for your benefit. But I have no real reviews to give, so not quite sure why I turned on the camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up with a better word for that. I don't like it. Right, we'll take our names.
I finished Magical Realism and I'm giving it a 4. I've been reading a lot of really solid memoir nonfiction lately. There is so much covered in here, like colonialism and the immigrant experience and a lot of media stuff, which I appreciate because it's like who's telling what story and how it's interpreted by people and who gets the focus and what kind of subtexts are in the media we consume. But there was a whole like 100 pages that not only I felt like was driving home the same point too often, maybe it was the first thing written and it was such a solid essay on its own that then she bulked it out with all of this like other more personal stuff. But then maybe like just didn't realize that a lot of the really good stuff in that section was already sprinkled in the other things, which felt like it could be good callbacks and reminders, but instead it just felt like I was reading the same message a lot. And the media mentioned is just so much stuff that I do not consume. It was Game of Thrones, it was Baldur's Gate, it was Lord of the Rings, The Avengers, The Last of Us, like so much that was good within it, like different tellings of history and stuff about racism and eugenics and a lot of really great conversations, but all related to media that I don't know anything about. It even went into like the celebrities who were part of the shows and thoughts on them, and like that's just something that I don't care about. So that's why it's gonna be a 4. Obviously, if it was stuff that I knew a lot about and was a part of my history as a consumer of media, I could appreciate it more, like I have with so many other essay collections. Obviously it made sense because this was fantasy focused and a lot of people are going to gain a lot of things from picking this up. All the conversations were so valid and greatly organized, but I didn't connect with it the way that other people will. Okay, and then I went on to read the first 7 stories in Zombie Sharks with Metal Teeth. They don't have anything in common. They're just like 10 random pages. My favorite ended up being this one because I starred in it. You see, my name Kayla is in there. And it was about a Muppet family. It was so weird. Before that, I had given a 3 to a story that was, I don't even know, it was just really random about friendship, a 2-star to this really confusing alien story. I didn't rate the one that was about superheroes because I don't like superhero stories. 3 stars to, there was a zombie tale about using like animals as ammunition. It was very strange. And a lot of them, my notes on it are, this should be a full-length novel, or this felt like it wanted to be a full-length novel, but this is just an excerpt to give us an idea. Like, hey, here's this idea. If a lot of people love it, I'll turn it into a full-length book. The only one that I didn't write that on was the one with my name, the one about Muppets, puppets as parents, because I don't think that should be a full-length novel in any realm, but as a short story, it was effective and it was interesting. And now I actually find myself in a bit of a grumpy mood, and I think it's maybe because I didn't go outside today. So I am gonna go outside now and go for a hot girl walk and then come back and read, I don't know, probably the Iliac Crest. My personal goal for the day is apparently to be very hot by the pool. We just got some new things to play with because we got these new badminton rackets last time and then they broke immediately. But we got these rings and these torpedo things. And then Liam picked out a floating basketball net. I tried to get beer pong, but he wasn't into it. I also got my booster juice, so hopefully my mood improves because I don't know where it's at right now. I ended up reading A Sentimental Education last night, and today I'm gonna read some more stories by the water in the shark one, and then I'll read the Iliac Crest. I'll review this more thoroughly later, but my general thoughts are it was a 4. It was really similar to the magical realism one as far as content, and I think the people who will get the most out of this are people who know who Hannah McGregor is, care about her, well I obviously care because she's a person, but I don't know anything about her podcast or her history, and it gives a lot of like kind of behind the scenes thoughts about who she is and why she does the work that she does. So that's why I would most recommend this too. I am back in my pajamas, trying to have good lighting but not be directly in the sun because it's a little obnoxious. I did read the next chunk of this and I finally found a 5-star, so that's where I paused. There was a lot of 3s, a lot of 2s. There was one that was like a small town and a performance that was going on. There was one about a beast wife. There was one that was about robots. I don't really know what was going on with it. There was one about the moon and space lobsters. There's a lot more sci-fi in here than I was, I guess, expecting. One about a retail job, and then the one that I gave 5 stars was called I Was a Teenage Slasher Victim. It's interesting because I'm wondering if it was the original idea for this, and this is an excerpt from this, and therefore I'm now a little bit like spoiled almost for the full-length novel. I don't really know, like it started out with a woman driving in a car with her son and they're talking about how she met her husband, and it was all about summer camp and what they did and the deaths that occurred. And this one I didn't think took place at summer camp, but I just looked at the Goodreads and some people are saying there are camp vibes. So now I'm just, I don't know. When that was originally announced, I didn't hear anything about it being like an expansion of a novella or a short story, but that's definitely something we'll have to talk about in the Literally Dead Book Club show for August. Now to update you quickly on this one, A Sentimental Education. This was originally recommended to me as a channel member's pick in the TBR jar because I like books that critique media, that talk about media, and that's exactly what this did. Also, there was like a Little Women essay that the person who recommended this said that I would be interested in. And I was, but it wasn't, I don't know, to me, this was divided into essays, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like the entire thing all had one strong message of feminism through the entire thing. Things were constantly being referenced, that it wasn't like individual pieces of media being focused on like one at a time, which is what I might expect from this collection. It talked about racism, it talked about land acknowledgement, it talked about queerness in fiction and connecting with different characters and how they helped her understand like her place in the world. One of my favorite quotes did come from the Little Women section, and it was talking about how there are so many women in literature for children that have like an extended childhood, and why that appeals to people, and how there's this looming adulthood and pressure always coming. So it's so beautiful to read about characters who are like going in through adolescence, but also past it, but still have this childlike quality and look at the world. It was funny, this had the exact same quote that the last book that I read had from Carmen Maria Machado. There was also a lot about Roxane Gay, and it was about like reconsidering your thoughts on things. So she was talking about how she listened to this podcast. She thought it was this incredible piece of something that meant a lot to her. And then years later, somebody critiqued that work, and she had to go back and think about allowing herself to still be moved and impacted by that, but also acknowledging how it might be harmful to other people. There was quite a bit in here that I liked, but again, I would appreciate it more if I know her, because she was talking about how she got different opportunities, speaking opportunities, why she took them, how her podcast has evolved, why she did it, how she feels the pressure to like parade her life on social media because she has this platform, the times in her career she's been called out, and why she felt that was like growing moments for her, and how she took them for what they are. It wasn't the most profound thing that I've ever picked up, but there was also not a lot wrong with it. I think it was well written. Everybody's on their own journey. She had a lot of interesting things to say. Not many things that nothing I haven't heard before, but that's obviously not a critique of the book, that like I've read a lot of feminist text. Anyway, I am now going to move on to the Iliac Crest, and I'll update you probably when I've finished it. Quick fire review of the Iliac Crest by Cristina Rivera Garza, translated by Sarah Booker. Maybe if I talk it out loud, it'll help me figure out my rating, because right now I do not know. This is a story that's like surreal, but vaguely so. It's not this expansive plot. It's with like all of this weird stuff happening. It's just like, it feels a little bit odd. It feels a little bit gothic. And as the translator's note says, it's about fluidity. Generally, that was my takeaway with like people, with words, with gender, with time. It all feels a little bit unclear, like what's true and what isn't. And our main character is in the same boat. He's just like generally confused. These two women show up at his house separately. They know each other, and they find their way into his house, and then they start like interrogating him, but also just like living there and being together and existing. And he needs to get to the bottom of who they are and like what they want. But he ends up through that journey just like ending up with more questions. He's a doctor, but the kind of like the situation that's happening in here is kind of like it's either a descent into madness, and there are other doctors who are concerned for him and what's going on, or like we're being misled about his identity the entire time, and the people concerned about him are like his doctors. I think it's kind of up for interpretation, like what actually is going on in here. It's short and it's weird. It's definitely not the weirdest thing I've ever read, and it doesn't feel weird at the beginning. Like the situation is odd, but like conceptually it doesn't feel weird. But then as the book goes on, we are descending into strangeness, just like he is. And I enjoyed myself. There were some quotes that like I tabbed. There were some quotes that were really beautiful. The use of repetition is something that I loved so much. She would say something and then a couple chapters later say that exact same phrase, but it had a different impact once we learned certain things about these women. But I don't think I got everything that I could have out of this. I don't love this the way that I've seen other people love it. So I guess it feels like, what does it feel like to you? Like everything that I'm saying sounds like it's a 3.5. Maybe I wonder if I would get more from it on a reread. I don't know. And I'm not going to find that out now because I have to keep the vlog moving. So I'll see you later. Today is a great day. Liam and I went to the driving range first thing in the morning as soon as it opened, and then went and got groceries and picked up his contacts that it took them like 3 weeks to make because apparently he has this crazy prescription. So those finally came in. And I'm reading Dune. So all is well today. And it just started raining. It's really humid. So golfing was hot, but it's good for like the wildfires and stuff. So yeah, I feel like I accomplished a lot before 11 a.m. And I just dropped Liam off at home to put away the groceries. And now I have to go to the library because I have a whole bunch of things for an upcoming video to grab. What's funny about Dune is I think I called this like intimidating in the intro, or like daunting, or like that was gonna take a long time. And that's exactly what I remember saying now in the video I originally read it, reading my mom's like childhood favorites. And then in that vlog, I'm pretty sure I read this entire thing in like 24 or 48 hours. And I was like, this was not as intimidating as I thought. And now somehow that same experience has just happened to me. I'm 130 pages in, like very quickly, and it doesn't take much to get into. I understand people like not liking this, and like everyone would have said that I would not be a fan of Dune if I said I was reading this like 5-10 years ago. But it always intimidates me because it's such an expansive world. It's such like wild SFF that it seems like there's so much to learn and so much world building, but it's not. Like the beginning of it, when people DNF it so early, I almost don't understand it. And I can't judge it because again, like I wouldn't have read this years ago, but it's so easy to get into. Like it's not world building. It's so much narration. There's just so much dialogue and a lot happening right away, but it slowly lets you in on the world. And I think it's just so smart that this author did these little moments from Princess Irulan to introduce what's about to happen in the coming chapter. And I don't think that works. I feel like I've seen critiques about that, but I love it. I love kind of getting spoiled for what's to come. So rather than being focused on, because like while I'm reading a science fiction, I'm thinking about two things, I guess, trying to understand what's happening and trying to like follow the plot. But since she gives an idea of what's about to happen in the plot, I can focus on just the dialogue and the discussions and what's actually happening. So we have Paul, who has grown up in this like family of women, and all of the women have certain abilities, and having a boy is something that's not like appealing, and they think that this boy is not going to have any powers, and then suddenly they think he does, which is a big deal. And they're wondering if he's even a human, so there's certain like testing he has to experience. And even though I read this only a couple years ago, there's so much that I don't remember in here, just different, and maybe it's because I watched the movie right after and I've seen the second movie since and haven't revisited the text, that all of the conversations and little moments between like the Duke and Jessica, I don't really remember. I don't remember Jessica having this much of a part of this book. There are a lot of decisions she's making. There are certain scenes with a maid. There's like all of these interactions and learnings that we get to make about her character. And then you're not just getting in the mind of like Jessica and Paul, but other people, and including villains, which is just such an interesting choice. A lot of things are, I don't want to say spoiled for you, but you know things before the characters know things, which isn't always my favorite. For some reason, it just really works in here. And now at this point, they have traveled, learning about the spice. I think the different like families and planets maybe take a while to understand, but that hasn't really come into it as much as I thought. Maybe because when I read this the first time, I actually read the terminology first. Like I really thoroughly went through it to make sure I understood who all the characters were and all of the words. So then I felt like the book was introducing a lot of the world and the different political stuff, but it's not really. It's more natural world building that you just come to understand things while you're in dialogue. So I'm just having a good time with this, and I'll see you when I get home and I've read some more. Just kidding. The library doesn't open until noon on Mondays. So I'm actually gonna sit here right now and read some more of this. The best thing actually to come out of today is that my sponsor approved my video, my shark vlog. It was supposed to go up on the weekend, but it's going up today. So as soon as I get home, I can set that to go live, which is very exciting. My copy is about to completely fall apart. It's so funny how reading this has had memories come flooding back to me, not of reading this, like not of the book itself, but of the journey of filming it and trying to figure out what on earth to say to you. Something that is frustrating about this reading experience is having to commit to either the physical or the audiobook. It's not the type of book that lends itself well to a tandem, or no, a tandem experience would be fine, but like going back and forth, switching out like every chapter, sometimes audio, sometimes physically, it just doesn't work. And I remember this happening to me the first time. I recall spending a lot of time trying to find where I was, because there is not chapter breaks. There's occasionally, like, it'll go from like book 2. Okay, like that's helpful, sure. But other than that, it's just not divided up at any point. It's just you're off, you're in this world. And maybe that's why I struggle to pause and update you, because at this point, like I would say a third of the way through, it just, or actually right when book 2 starts, it just takes off and it never stops. It never pauses. It never feels like you're not in the middle of action. So trying to figure out when to like pause in general, but also pause to update you is a struggle. And then I find myself wanting to listen to the audiobook occasionally. And I think I did this last time. I was reading it physically and I was like, okay, well, I need the audiobook because this is such a daunting thing to get through. And I can't recall how much I actually listened to because it's so hard to pick back up after and figure out where you were. And today I've been trying to do that again and it's just really difficult. So I was listening to like this isn't where I am, this is where I was. And then I found that spot in the audiobook and I listened to about an hour. But now like I would have to literally read pages and pages to figure out where I stopped in the audiobook. So I think I am now committed to just finishing it via my ears. And I do also think that's what I'm gonna do with Dune Messiah, because I believe that's how I did it last time. Anyway, I haven't added any more tabs. The tabs are the exact same as they were before. The surprising elements, learning, histories of certain things that you come to understand. There are deaths, there are births. This is very fast move, like a lot happens in here that again, like when I'm comparing it to the movie is split. The movie is only like, I feel like this much of the book, the initial one, because we do jump a little bit in the future and we skim past things that I guess didn't matter to Frank Herbert in relationship and family development that I would like to see. Time has jumped in a very few amount of pages, and explaining like what is actually going on in the plot wouldn't mean anything to anybody who hasn't actively read this or consumed any Dune media. So maybe this should have been an entire like spoiler journey for the people who do want to like really discuss what's going on in here. But anyway, I'm just acknowledging this vlog is not the most quality, but nothing. I had nothing else to say. I'm gonna finish the book and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna tell you it's 5 stars. And then I'm gonna read the next one and then I'm gonna tell you it's 5 stars. And that's it. I have not indeed finished my book. And it's gotten kind of late in the day. Rob's gonna be home soon. And I was thinking, well, it'd be nice if he came home to something that he's been wanting me to do for a while, that I also know I've been needing to do for a while. But then I was just thinking like, it's not gonna be useful because like he's gonna come home and yes, I will have cleaned out my mug stash, but they're just gonna be all over the counter. So is that even better? Or will it just look like now there's more of a mess? But in the last goal-centric vlog, I got rid of my coffee machine. I don't use mugs, but I have a mug collection. I don't like tea. Usually I don't like hot chocolate. I don't use these mugs. And the other people who use these mugs, maybe like once a week in the winter, having hot chocolate. So I'll just keep a handful. Every time we go to put away dishes, it's like annoying how much there isn't space because the entire top row and half of the second row is mugs that nobody uses. There are ones that I have to keep because they're too pretty. Like it's a good thing I don't have too much of a collection because I would have a hard time making these decisions. This one has to stay. I feel like this one has to stay. Oh, this one makes no sense. It's just because it says coffee on it and I think it's cute. And it's one of the first things that I ever used like affiliate money on. The first time I ever made money on the internet was like 12 years ago on Zulily. I was using affiliate like referral links and I was going crazy. Like people were really using them. I was popping off on Pinterest. And this is one of the first things I ever got that I didn't have to pay for. And it's like an extra large coffee mug and they didn't really make these at the time. Do you keep it for the nostalgia or do you just get rid of it? That's a maybe. This one, like all the hockey ones, I get that there's a purpose for them. This is a good size. This is not a good size. It's just that this is like Liam's hockey team that he loves and watches, but I don't think he cares about this. If there's another hockey one better than this, I'll get rid of this one too. I thought it was cute when I bought it. This one is cute, but again, it's like not the perfect size. When you want a hot chocolate, you want like a hot chocolate. But this one, I bought this in the Drunk or High video. I can't remember which I was when I purchased this, but I don't know. This is good for like bookmarks and for Instagram pictures. I'm keeping it. This is another cute fall pumpkin one. I love this one. I love the color. Oh, I'm keeping it. This one we bought on a trip. It was to, where was it? It was on the island in a little beach town, and it's like handmade. I'm keeping it. Okay, this one I can get rid of. It's pretty, it's speckled. Again, I remember where I got it. I really loved it at the time. Do I need it? No, it is a good size though. It's a really good size. The World Needs More Canada has been cute for some Instagram pictures. I guess I can get rid of this one. I didn't even ask if you wanted to hear about every single mug. This is so cute. I know I don't need this one. It's also not even a great size. You guessed it, I'm keeping it. Starbucks can go. Aries, I guess it can go. Libra FM, great size, super cute. I would only use this like very rarely for an Instagram photo op when I want to promote Libra, which I do often. So I'm gonna keep it. I liked this when I got it. It doesn't really do much for me now. And it's leaving. The ghost mug is obviously staying. Liam drinks hot chocolate out. Actually, this is probably the only one I need to keep because he drinks hot chocolate out of this one every single time. He just loves the shape of it. This one is from Owl Crate Junior. It is so cute, but we just never use it. This one, Read the North. Similar to the other Canada one, it can go. This one has nothing on it. It used to come with a little, actually this came from the dollar store because there was a little like knitted sweater sleeve that came over it and it was really cute. It can go. Moon Magic in You. I loved it a lot when I got it. Yes, I'm retiring it. This flower one, I remember I bought it not that long ago and I really loved it. I've moved on. Now I have said in the past I want to collect all of the Pantone mugs. I have no reason to collect them all. They're just pretty and I also only have one. Since that means it's not a collection yet, let's not start. Now these beer glass cups are difficult because this one's so pretty. This one was a gift. I don't drink iced coffee and there's nothing else I would ever use these for. I don't know. Since there's space, I'm just gonna put them up here with the other glasses and now you can see what I'm putting back. Okay, that's a great fit. So this one's leaving. And now these cups that people actually use have their own place. And look at all the room I have for bowls now. Okay, I'm officially donating 14 mugs today. And now I'll just leave them all here for him to come see them, say goodbye to each individual one, and then I'll take them to the thrift store. When I worked at Tim Hortons, I would always stress people out because I would hook like all the mugs that were clean on my hand all at once to carry them from the dishwasher to like where you store the mugs by the counter. So this is just for the thumbnail. I have finished Dune. We just went on a sunset walk. It was really nice. And what notes did I leave for myself that I wanted to say at the end of this? Oh, I was just gonna talk about Chaney's character in Dune and how I appreciate it so much in the movie, and instead of watching or reading Dune Messiah tonight, I'm gonna watch Dune Part 1 because having seen Part 2 now and rereading this, it makes me appreciate her character even more than I realized. Not only does she have more agency in the movie, but she acts as this character who is witnessing what Paul is doing, much like the audience is, and that's something that's kind of lacking from the book. I think you can, especially after reading Dune Messiah, get an idea of Paul's entire arc as a false messiah and what that means, but there are inklings to how you're supposed to feel about him being in this role. But the way that I've talked about a lot, I feel like with media literacy these days kind of going downhill, different generations reading this book since it's been out so long have different interpretations of the story. Because some of the messages are left for interpretation or are a little more understated and aren't in your face, the message of it can get lost because it's not spoon-fed to you. And the movie gives you this character to have those themes represented through, which I think is really helpful. I definitely forgot exactly how this ended and how it differed from the film, and I have a lot of thoughts on the epic fight that occurs, how it's different, how Jessica and Chaney relate at the end, and just where things are going to go in the future. I'm going to go watch that, and then I also need to read the rest of the stories in the Stephen Graham Jones collection because I totally forgot about that. And then tomorrow we will do Dune Messiah. Good morning for the final day of the vlog. Liam and I woke up early and went to the arcade first thing this morning. He did some batting cages, we played some games. I kicked his butt at basketball. The only sport that I can win against him is inflatable basketball shooting. Actually, I also beat him at just like regular basketball. So we did that. Now we're home, relaxing. I am gonna read Dune Messiah today. But first, let me tell you my final thoughts about this. My actual final rating has to be a 2, just averagely with all of the stories. The last 8 that I just read, I gave out a lot of 2 stars, mostly 2 stars. We had a couple fish stories, no sharks in this whole thing, but dolphins a couple times, general fishing, and there was another zombie story. So there have been a couple zombie stories in here. This one is like the most Stephen Graham Jones story I've ever read. Submitted for your approval. It was like about the movies and it was confusing. There was a time travel one and then one that was just 1 page. Unfortunately, it was not the collection for me, which makes me a little disappointed in myself that I didn't pick one of the anthologies off my shelf. It's been there for years, but that's okay. Happy to have read it because I just like being in his mind. There was a little portion at the end where he explained the origin story of each of the short stories and like where he got the idea or when he wrote it. And the slasher one does mention I have another slasher book I've been carrying in my hip pocket for nearly 20 years. And this was also written 10 years ago. So if that's the slasher thing we're talking about, it took him 30 years to come out with it, which is pretty cool. And now finally, Dune Messiah. I read Dune Messiah, finished it, gave it 5 stars. I didn't remember a lot about this. So much so that I went and looked at my childhood favorites playlist and was like, how long ago did I read this? Because I thought it was 2022, it was actually 2021. So it's been like 3 years since I read it, which makes it more fair that I forgot some things. This takes place like over a decade in the future. And I remember watching Dune Part 2 and thinking it's interesting that they cast Anya Taylor-Joy because she's like, in the book, her character is like a fully conscious toddler, like a weird talking baby basically. And now it makes sense because in this one she is like more adult age, and I don't know how much of a role she would play in future books, but it makes sense now that they cast an adult for her role. And then they did like a baby in utero, like mind communicating instead of like the toddler vibes, which I think was a great choice. And I can see her now playing this part in future movies. I wonder how many we're gonna get and how deep into the series they're gonna go. I obviously need to continue now and I've been refreshed, so I will read on. I don't know if I want to commit to this year, but sometime soon. Something that I liked that this book integrated was the spice, because obviously it's a whole planet and everybody is fighting to control the spice and what the spice does to people and their minds and the addiction. And there wasn't like that kind of lost what this book wasn't about. That it lost that quality, and this brought it back. How the spice is affecting various characters and what it's doing and why. So I like that about this. If I were like in control of the movie, I feel like I would do things in a different order, because there is a death that occurs and it's kind of brushed off and it's not a main character, but it makes a big impact, or it should, on the main characters and the main plot. And I feel like we should actually see things that happen in this book before this book. Like things should be in a different order to have like the emotional impact that that death would have. The tension between Chani and Irulan was interesting in here, and I feel like they might play that out even more in the films. I'm just like, that's why I read these, is because I love the film so much. And is that impacting my feelings on the books? Like maybe, though I did read them first. I think it just solidifies my enjoyment of them, and I just get so excited at the prospect of getting to see more of the story on film. So I'm gonna rewatch Dune Part 2 today, and that's it. I accomplished my goals. Thank you for hanging out with me in a chill week-long vlog. This is everything that I got done. Just like plenty of videos, I didn't have any new 5 stars, but I'm glad that I read what I did. And we have one more. If there's anything that you want to make sure that I read by the end of the year that I should integrate into that 3rd goal reflection video, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye!